Hey everyone, welcome back to Checkmate Scholars. In today's video, we're going to be going over the 2025 4th grade reading STAAR test. If you'd like access to these practice tests, make sure to check the link in the description. If you'd also like one-on-one tutoring for your student, whether they're in grade 3 or they're all the way in college, check out the link in the description for access to our sign-up sheet. Alright, let's get started. This passage is titled Year-Long Summer. Let's read. In the high branches of an oak tree, in a beautiful little nest, lived Robin. Squirrel, her neighbor, lived in a cozy hollow near Robin's nest. Squirrel and Robin were great friends and spent their summers together. Soon the days grew shorter and the air grew colder. Squirrel knew this meant she needed to start preparing for the cold winter. She worked hard adding more foliage to her nest. She spent days gathering nuts and seeds. Squirrel couldn't wait for hibernation, since she loved sleeping in her cozy hollow all winter and relaxing after the busy bustle of autumn. Alright, so before we move on, I'd like to highlight this. It seems as though Squirrel is very proactive. She knew, or I don't know what I'm referring to. Well, Squirrel knew this meant she needed to start preparing for the cold winter. So basically, she was very proactive. She thought ahead. So it seems as though Squirrel is someone who prepares well. Let's keep reading. Robin, on the other hand, could not stand the idea of hibernating. Okay, so we see a contrast. So Squirrel loves to hibernate, but Robin does not. Even so, she worked alongside Squirrel, padding her nest and storing food. Okay, so even though she doesn't like hibernating, she still worked along Squirrel. I wish summer would last all year, cried Robin. Why? Replied Squirrel. Winter is a wonderful season. I dread winter, complained Robin. It is freezing and all the animals are asleep. I don't have anyone to keep me company. Okay, so seems this is the reason why she doesn't like winter. Robin doesn't like winter because no one's there to keep her company, and it's also freezing. Okay, so it's lonely and it's cold. Why don't you sleep like the rest of us? Asked Squirrel. I can't stay asleep, replied Robin, because once the light of morning reaches my nest, I wake up. Okay, so Robin can't stay asleep, and so when she's awake, it's cold and it's lonely. You should winter in the hollow this year, replied Squirrel. The light never reaches me. So Squirrel helped Robin move into the hollow. Soon autumn turned to winter, and just like winters in the past, Squirrel quickly fell asleep. The first night was restful for Robin, but in the morning she could sense the rising sun. Okay, so let's highlight this. This is going back to the original problem. Even though the hollow was dark, she awoke at dawn as usual. This will never do, she said to herself. She thought about waking up Squirrel, but Squirrel looked so happy sleeping snugly in her corner of the hollow. Robin tried to go back to sleep, but sleep would not come. She wanted to sing her morning song, but she didn't want to wake up Squirrel. She started pacing around the hollow, trying desperately to think of a way to sleep. Squirrel was not slumbering as soundly as usual. She loved her long nap, but she could hear Robin pacing to and fro and humming her morning song. Squirrel became annoyed. So we see a little bit of turbulence here. So we see here that Squirrel couldn't sleep very well because Robin was awake. What are you doing? Asked Squirrel. Well, I'm sorry, did I wake you? Asked Robin. I just can't stay asleep. When the morning comes, I must get up. I don't think I can stay in the hollow all winter. Squirrel and Robin tried to think of a solution. At first, Robin considered going back to her nest, but all her leaves and twigs were in the hollow, and snow blanketed the ground outside. Rebuilding it would be a tedious, frigid chore. Then Squirrel suggested that Robin feast on some of the nuts and seeds they had stored in the hollow. Eating a lot always makes me tired, Squirrel said with a yawn. So this is one of the solutions that Squirrel came up with. So they tried to think of a solution. They tried thinking about Robin going back to her nest, but all the leaves and twigs in the hollow were already blanketed with snow. Okay, so that's not an option. So they said, let's try eating. Okay, so let's highlight that. Robin tried to stuff herself with the delicious food stores, but she could only eat a little bit at a time. It's useless, Robin cried. I want to live where it's never winter. That's it, exclaimed Squirrel. Your wings are strong. You can fly to where it's warm, okay? But you are my friend. I can't leave you, Robin gasped. I'll be sleeping all winter. You should fly south where it is warm, and in the spring you can fly back here. I'll be awake by the time you get back, and we can have all summer together, okay? So this seems to be a good solution. So the food didn't work, but maybe flying down to south would work. So let's highlight this. This is a possible solution. Robin considered Squirrel's idea, and thoughts of warmth filled her like rays from the sun. If she went south for winter, she could have summer year-round, while Squirrel could hibernate in peace. This is a wonderful idea, she said. I will leave at once. There's a good picture kind of depicting what we just read. Alright, let's move on to question 1. Alright, let's look at question number 1. Which idea should be included in a summary of the story? Well, before we look at our answer choices, let's go ahead and summarize the story right now. So, looking at the start, right, we see that Robin and Squirrel are trying to prepare for the winter. So we see Squirrel is preparing. Now Robin doesn't like it, but she still helps Squirrel anyway. We see that Robin, again, doesn't like it. It's a cold and none of the friends are there, right? We see that Robin, again, is complaining about the winter. We look at possible solutions, right? So at first, Squirrel wasn't able to sleep well, and so the possible solution we look at is, okay, maybe Robin should go back to her nest, but that's not an option. The snow has already covered everything. Then Squirrel suggests, hey, how about you eat? Eating makes her tired. Robin tried that, but as she said here, it's useless. So then there's the idea of, okay, how about Robin goes where it's warm, flying south, right? And so it kind of ends with that being that agreement. And here Squirrel could hibernate in peace. So this is a wonderful idea. She said, I'll leave at once. This is referring to Robin. And so here we can see that, okay, Robin decides to leave. So now we're looking at what should be included in a summary of this story. So let's read. Squirrel and Robin spend days gathering food. Well, we already talked about that. That's already here. Robin hums a morning song. Again, that's already here. We see that Robin does hum her morning song right here, right? Squirrel says eating a lot makes her feel tired. We do see that, right? We do see that right here, so we don't need to include that in a summary. How about D? Robin decides to fly south for the winter. That should be included, right? We didn't see that here, but we'd like to include that. We want to include that into our summary, so therefore D is the best answer. All right, let's move on to question number 2. Question number 2 says, read the question carefully, then enter your answer in the box provided. What is the main problem in the story? Support your answer with evidence from the story. Well, if you remember, after we read, we did go back to this and we realized that the main problem was that Robin does not like to hibernate, okay? So let's kind of type that in. So, or actually before I type my response, you can actually write down your response. You can pause the video here and try and write down your response. My response would be this. Robin does not like to hibernate. She goes to the hollow with Squirrel to hibernate. but cannot fall asleep. Her humming disrupts squirrels hibernation. Okay, so we see that Robin does not like to hibernate, right? And we see that evidence in paragraph 3. Okay, we see that in paragraph 3. Robin does not like to hibernate. See that in paragraph 3. She goes to the hollow with Squirrel to hibernate, but cannot fall asleep. Okay, we see that in paragraph 10 and 11. Paragraph 10 and 11. Her humming, paragraphs 10 and 11. Okay, her humming disrupts squirrel's hibernation. Okay. We see that in paragraphs, let's see, that would be right here, paragraph 13. Okay, so this is the main problem. Robin doesn't like to hibernate. She goes to the hollow with Squirrel to hibernate, but cannot fall asleep. Her humming, and let's add her humming and pacing habits disrupt Squirrel's hibernation. So this is the main problem we see here. We see here that Robin and Squirrel can't get along when it comes to hibernation. Robin has a different way of going about hibernation than Squirrel. So this would be my answer response. All right, question number 3. What does the third person point of view in this story help the reader understand about Robin and Squirrel? All right, let's start off with this. What is third person point of view? We know that first person point of view is when the narrator talks about themselves, okay? We know second person point of view is when the narrator talks to you. Third person point of view is when the narrator talks about other people in the story. All right, so let's look at our question one more time. What does the third person point of view in the story help the reader understand about Robin and Squirrel? Okay, answer choice A says why Robin lives in a nest during the summer months. Well, it didn't talk about that. All we know is that Robin is going to the south where it's warmer. It doesn't talk about her getting a nest. And even if it did, the question asks about Robin and Squirrel. This answer choice only tells us about Robin. Answer choice B says how Robin and Squirrel each feel about spending time together. That's a good choice. We see, I believe it's right here, we see that Robin, right? Robin tried to go back to sleep, but sleep would not come. She wanted to sing, but she didn't want to wake up Squirrel, so she feels considerate. So we see how Robin feels about Squirrel. Well, how about how Squirrel feels about Robin? So after Robin starts pacing around and trying to sleep, we see Robin is pacing around again, humming her morning song. How does Squirrel feel? Squirrel feels annoyed. So the narrator in paragraphs 12 and 13 tell us how Robin and Squirrel feel about each other. So B is a good answer choice. Let's keep that in our back pocket. Answer choice C, how hard Squirrel works to make her space comfortable. Okay, well, we see that here in paragraph 2. So Squirrel starts making her space comfortable, which is a good thing. It is present in our passage. However, the question asks again about Robin and Squirrel. This answer choice only tells us about Squirrel, so that's wrong. Answer choice D, why Robin and Squirrel became friends. Well, let's start here. We don't know how they became friends, right? All we know is that they've always been friends. We kind of have to infer that. See, in paragraph 1 it says, in the high branches of an oak tree in a beautiful little nest lived Robin. Squirrel, her neighbor, lived in a cozy hollow near Robin's nest. Squirrel and Robin were great friends and spent their summer together. So we don't know how they became friends or why they became friends. So D is wrong. That leaves us with B, which we left in our back pocket. B is correct. Hey everyone, if you're interested in a free 1-hour tutoring session with Checkmate Scholars, make sure to click the link in the description. That link will send you to a Google document where you can sign up for your student. Alright, let's get back to the video. Question 4 says, what do paragraphs 9 and 10 show about Squirrel? Alright, let's go to paragraphs 9 and 10. Okay. We can actually start from paragraph 8 to get a little bit of context. I can't stay asleep, replied Robin, because once the light of morning reaches my nest, I wake up. So now we're going into paragraphs 9 and 10. You should winter in the hollow this year, replied Squirrel. The light never reaches me. So here Squirrel sounds pretty considerate. She's very friendly and welcoming of Robin. Paragraph 10. So Squirrel helped Robin move into the hollow. Soon autumn turned to winter. And just like winters in the past, Squirrel quickly fell asleep. The first night was restful for Robin, but in the morning she could sense the rising sun. Even though the hollow was dark, she awoke at dawn as usual. Alright, so paragraphs 9 and 10 show us how nice Squirrel is. So let's see. She enjoys nights more than mornings? Well, we don't know that. This is just hibernation period. She's afraid of leaving her home? Well, it doesn't tell us that here. It just tells us that Squirrel is inviting Robin, kind of like for a sleepover in the hollow. She's happy during cold winter or during cold weather. Well, we don't see that here. She cares about Robin. Yes, we do see that. We see that Squirrel is very kind and considerate about Robin. Therefore, answer choice D is the correct answer. Okay, let's move on to question number 5. Based on the events that take place at the end of the story, what will Robin most likely do next? Okay, let's take a look at the end of the story. Okay, let's start from paragraph 20. I'll be sleeping all winter. You should fly south where it is warm, and in the spring you can fly back here. I'll be awake by the time you get back and we can have all summer together. So this sounds like Squirrel speaking. Robin considered Squirrel's idea, and thoughts of warmth filled her like rays from the sun. If she went south for winter, she could have summer year-round, while Squirrel could hibernate in peace. This is a wonderful idea, she said. I will leave at once. Okay, so now we're supposed to anticipate or infer what Robin would likely do next. So it's clearly right here. Robin said, I'll leave at once. Okay, so let's check our answer choices. She will make friends with other animals. No, it doesn't tell us that's what she's planning on doing. She plans on leaving. We even see that in the picture. She'll change where she lives based on the seasons. This is a good answer choice because we know that while it's getting colder, she wants to move towards the south. So this is a good answer choice. Let's save B in our back pocket. Answer choice C, she will try building another nest in the hollow. Well, the hollow is here where it's cold. She wants to move south, so this isn't the answer. She'll sleep through winter. Well, Robin doesn't want to sleep through the winter. She wants to go to where it's warm, where she can always be awake. Remember, I believe it's here in paragraph 10. The first night was restful for Robin, but in the morning, she could sense the rising sun. Even though the hollow was dark, she awoke at dawn as usual. So she's not going to sleep through the winter. All right, so definitely B is our answer choice for this question. All right, let's check out question number 6. What is the most likely reason the author includes the illustration? All right, this is our illustration. Before we even look at our answer choices, what is this showing us? This illustration is showing Robin leaving the hollow. She's leaving Squirrel, and she's probably going down south. Remember, in paragraph 21, we see that this is a wonderful idea. She said, I'll leave at once. And what is the idea? If she went south for winter, she could have summer year round. So Robin wants to leave her friend Squirrel to go down south, to basically have a warmer winter season. So let's look at our answer choices. To show that Robin is trying to sleep in the hollow? No, the hollow is here in the cold area. Robin wants to leave south to where it's warmer. To show how Robin builds her nest? No, Robin is not sticking around to build a nest. She's going down south. To show that Robin is moving away from her friend? Maybe. Maybe this is a good choice. This is a very, very good choice. Let's keep it in our back pocket. D, to show why Robin dislikes the winter. This doesn't show us that Robin dislikes the winter. It just shows us leaving Squirrel. Now, if maybe this picture showed a picture of Robin maybe waking up early, like right here, maybe that could be a good answer. But this is showing us Robin leaving Squirrel. So therefore C is the best answer choice for question number 6. Okay, now we are on to our final question, question number 7. Which detail shows that year-long summer is a fable? Well, what is a fable? A fable is a story that's not real. Okay, a fable is a story that's not real. So let's check it out. Squirrel and Robin live outside. Well, we know that squirrels and robins are birds, right? We know that squirrels and birds live outside. They don't live inside houses, so this can't be it. Robin has wings that help her fly. Well, a fable is something that's fake, but robins do have wings that help her fly. This is real, okay? So it's not B. Squirrel sleeps in a corner of the hollow. Well, squirrels do sleep in hollows. Even if we don't know what a hollow is, we can kind of infer, right? Judging by this illustration, that a hollow is going to be somewhere in the tree. And if you've ever been outside before, you see squirrels running into their trees, into their little hollows. So C is not correct. Squirrel and Robin talk to each other. Okay, well, remember, a fable is something that's not real. Do squirrels talk? No. Do birds talk? No. So therefore, D is the correct answer choice. All right, everyone, that brings us to the end of today's video. If you found it useful, I'd really appreciate if you could give this video a like. Also, maybe share it to a student that could maybe benefit from this type of content. Remember, in the future, we are going to other grade levels for STAAR test prep, so make sure to subscribe so you're updated when we do release those videos. Also, if you'd like one-on-one tutoring for your student, don't forget to check the link in the description. There you can access the sign-up link for Checkmate Scholars. Remember, for new Checkmate Scholars customers, you do get 1 hour of free tutoring, so don't let that opportunity pass you by. Sign up today. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, checkmate.